Okay, everyone, this is an experiment that we are going to do together on flipped classrooms. Now, I have up to this point created lots of YouTube videos for review, but this one is going to be on actually having you watch this at home and then get the information, and then we're going to apply it in class. This is an experiment, we'll see how it goes, but here we go. This is, like I said, on functions. Functions can be written like this or some other kind of letter. It just depends. But that is what we call function notation. So let's think about what is a function. A function is a relationship between two variables, usually called x and y. Why do we call it x and y? Because you can graph it on a coordinate plane using the x and y axis. Now, we'll get to that and what that means in just a few moments. Okay. Graph it, which I think is really super cool. So, let's look at the table that's here. This table, when I say look at the relationship between the two numbers, what I don't want you to do is look at the patterns going like this. Instead, what I would prefer that you do is look at this number and see what happens to the right of it. Look at this number, see what happens, and so on. So you're looking at the relationship between the columns, not just going down one row. So, what pattern did you see? Well, let's figure that out. The pattern is the pattern of the number on the right is half the size of the number on the left if you go row by row. So, let's look at what the pattern becomes. Now look at the same table, except this time the variables are added to the top. All I did was I added x and y. So I'm calling this column x, this column y, but I'm still looking at what happens to the number to get over here. In other words, what am I doing to 4 to get 2? What am I doing to 6 to get 3? What am I doing to 8 to get 4? I'm doing what we call splitting in half. So as you think about that, how would you write that mathematically? That's important. The pattern is the same, except we're just going to write it as a function, and this is what it looks like. Y equals 1/2 of x. Now, this is what that is actually saying. So before you go, oh my gosh, I don't understand, let's look at it. Okay, I've got y equals 1/2 of x. What I am saying is any number in that y column, the way that I get it is to split the x number in half. And I do that by multiplying it by 1/2. Think about it. If you multiply 2 times 1/2, well, you get 1. Here's the same explanation. Think about it. It says any number on the second column is called the y. Any number on the first column is called the x. And then you can graph it. And this is what that graph actually looks like. Now, when you get to this, I'm asking you to use a graphing calculator. There's one online called Desmos that's free. I really like it a lot. That's available on the computer, or you can use an app. It's available both Android and Apple. They both work. But this is what that graph would look like. Now, what does this graph actually mean? Let's think about what that is. If I plug in the coordinates, this table is exactly what I had before. See how x is 2 and y is 1? Now remember, when you graph, you start with your x, then your y. So I'm going to move over 2 and then up 1. So my first coordinate was right there. My second, third, fourth, and fifth. And the line that's going through it was from the previous slide. So that's how I can actually graph it. what you are expected to do is to look at a graph and figure out the pattern, or look at an equation and figure out what the graph looks like. As you get proficient in doing this, you will then start using this in projects in algebra. This is called a linear function. Understanding linear functions is absolutely necessary to be successful in Math 1. And this is a fancy way of saying a line. Look at the root word in linear. That's your root word. So it's basically graphing lines, figuring out how to do it. Let's practice by looking at these tables. Okay, I've got an X and a Y table like this. I've got 3 and a blank, 2, -2, blank, 0, 0, 1. So let's figure out, what are we doing to get this? Well, we need to figure out first what numbers go. In order to do that, we need to see, what am I doing to this X number to get this? Well, there's only one way to do it. How do I get -2 from 2? I multiply it by -1. Same thing here. Now, any number times 0 is itself. So, that would make this a 1. Well, what's 3 times -1? -3. What's 1 times -1 times -1? Then we get, remember, two negative numbers multiplied gives us a positive answer. So now, I've got my tables. Now check it out. I just filled them in on the previous graph. Now I can plot these points. 3, -3. Now, this may look different, but that's because I've expanded the graph here. This is the coordinate 1. This is where 3 goes. So if it's 3, -3, that goes right here. 2, -2 is there. 1, -1 is here. 0, 0, dead center. And then -1, 1. Remember, if -1 is X, you go to the left, then up. And there we go. Do you see how that can make a line? If the pattern is the Y value is equal to the X value times -1, then the function is written as Y equals -X, or Y equals -1X. Remember, if a coefficient is 1, you don't have to write it. And then that graph will be made. So, at this point, you want to pause the video and then see if you can figure out the patterns to these 4 tables. This is question 1, this is question 2, question 3 is up here, and then that's 4. Fill these in. Like I said, pause it, fill these in, and then you can check your answers. Okay, here are your answers. Here, all we're doing is we're adding 1 to get the new numbers. So 2 plus 1 is 3. 4 plus 1 is 5, 6 plus 1 is 7, 8 plus 1 is 9, 10 plus 1 is 11, okay? Look down here. 5 plus -9 gets us our answers here. 5 plus -9 is -4, 4 plus -9 is -5, and so on. I could have also said X minus 9 here, but like I said in class, if you think about them as adding negative numbers, you can think of them using algebra tiles. Over here, my pattern is I'm adding 3 to each X number. 4 plus 3 is 7, 5 plus 3 is 8, 6 plus 3 is 9. Down here, I am adding 2 to each one. 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 2 is 4, and so on and so on. Now, here are the functions for that. Y is equal to X plus 1. That means I can substitute any of these numbers into X, add 1, and it will equal a corresponding number over here. So if X equals 2, then Y will equal 3. If X is equal to 4, Y would equal 5. That's how functions work. This is my second function. Y equals X minus 9, or Y equals X plus -9. Here was my X plus 3. So if X equals 3, then Y would equal 7. And then over here, Y equals X plus 2. If X equals 1, then y would equal 2. Or I'm sorry, it would equal 3. Now, graph each one of these functions. You can use the Desmos app or go to the website, pause it, graph it, and then come back to here and check your answers. Okay, here's the first one. This is what x plus 1 would look like. This is what x minus 9 looks like. See how this number dropped? This is really cool. The value here tells you where the line's going to cross the y-axis. If there isn't a number here, let's say it just says y equals 2x, for example, it's going to cross there. But if there's a plus a number or minus a number, it's either going to go up or down. In algebra, this is called a y-intercept because it's intercepting the y-axis. This is y equals x plus 3. Notice how this one's 3 up from 0. And this is x plus 2, and how that is 2 up from 0. Okay, if you need to watch this again, please do so. Be prepared to have some understanding of x and y and its relationship, and then we will work on these in class. Thanks.